Hello crafters, I'm JanB and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. What makes this card different is the way I have stamped the sentiment here, and that's what I want to show you today. I don't know if there's a name for this technique, but I'm calling it Dancing Daubers, which I think is quite a nice name. I did this for my blog this week. My challenge I've set myself is using stamps differently, which is what I've done here. I showed this on my blog. I also showed this stamp on my blog and this one here. I've since finished these two cards off, but if I can show you this, it's easier to see. You see there's the two colours in there, red and green. On this one, the two colours are Elegant Eggplant and Wisteria Wonder. And this one is, what did I use? Bermuda Bay and Pool Party. Now this technique is very, very similar to thumping, but this is more controlled than thumping. Thumping is what I would describe as being quite random, but this is definitely more controlled. I'm going to change my colours for this one. So the card pieces that you're going to need, the card base I'm using here is Garden Green, and that measures 8 1/4 by 5 3/4. A layer of mint macaron, which measures 4 inches by 5 5/8 inches. A Whisper White layer, which is 3 7/8 inches by 5 1/2 inches. You're also going to need a piece of Whisper White that's approximately 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 for the wreath. A piece that is about 1 3/4 by 1 1/2 for the bow, and a scrap for the flower. And you will also need for the sentiment one piece of Whisper White that measures 2 inches by 1 7/8 and a piece of mint macaron that measures 2 1/8 inch by 2 inches. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Dancing Daubers first of all. And the sentiment I'm using is from, I think it's Cozy Christmas. Yes, it's from this stamp set here. And the way I did this was I took my two daubers, one for Garden Green and one's mint macaron, and my ink pads for these. And what I'm going to do is, because that's got to fit onto there perfectly, I've set up my Stamp-A-Majig ready. So I'll get that over and that there, and I'm going to just put some temporary adhesive, if I can reach it without diving in front of the screen. Right, okay. If you don't have temporary adhesive like this, you can use your snail, put it on there, but before you stick it down, just keep sticking your finger on it to take some of the sticky off, and then put it down. Right, okay, so what I did was I start with my lightest colour. So this is mint macaron, and I just tap that on there, and with this I'm going to do north, south, east and west. Okay, so that's going to be north, south, east and west. I'm going to be quite generous with the area that I'm doing, because this is the lighter colour. It needs to have more on the stamp, otherwise it's going to be totally overshadowed by the darker colour. Okay, so I'm just doing north, south, east and west. So I'm leaving the centre bit blank, and I'm leaving the 4 corners. Okay, so once I'm happy that I've got quite a lot on there, I'm going to move that one out of the way, close that up so that I don't use it by mistake, open up the garden green. Now this, I am not going to cover such a great area, so I'm just going to get it nice and wet and just do in the corners like that. Because I went over quite a large area with my lighter colour, just doing a small area like this will be sufficient. And then I'm just going to go into the centre as well. This is why I say that this is a lot more controlled than thumping. I am going to do a video to show thumping for those of you that haven't seen it. Right, now that I've done that, I'm going to huff on it and then stamp it down. But let me just get my Stampin' majiggle set up ready. So that's going to be fine. The reason I've anchored that down onto my grid paper is because I knew that when I put this down, it's not going to be on it, so it's not going to be holding it in place. Right, now what I need to do now is just huff on this before I pop it down there. And then down we go. Just hold it for a few seconds so that it can absorb the ink. There we go. Now I am pleased with that. Let me just lift that up and I'll show you. Doesn't that look nice? Plenty of light in there, and the dark too. Very, very pleased with that. Okay, so to do the rest of my card, let me just move those out of the way, we don't need that. Right, I'll put these two together first. What I'll do is I'll do all the stamping, and then I'll get my big shot in to do the embossing and the die cutting. Okay, so that will be ready for the embossing. This will be ready. Put that bit on there as well. Just take the remnants of that off. That was the temporary adhesive there. I imagine you probably could just leave it on there. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now with the wreath, my three colours are going to be mint macaroon, garden green and mossy meadow, and I've had to write it down here because I know that I wouldn't remember which order I was going to do it. I think it should be like that. Let me just double check. That's the main leaves, the small leaves and the berries. Yep, that's right. Okay, so I'll start off with the stamp set I'm using is Wondrous Wreath, and this is what I'm talking about, the 3 colours. This is what I call the main leaf, so that's going to be the mint macaroon. These are the small leaves, and that's going to be garden green, and that's the berries, so it's going to be mossy meadows. With this stamp set, because it's triple stamping up have put little pointers on, so that if you make that face the same direction on each of the stamps, you know everything's going to line up. So I'm going to keep that pointing upwards. I'm just going to pop that down. Let's give that a few seconds to absorb the ink. And then I will take, in fact, I should close that, shouldn't I? So the next one is these leaves. As you see, there's the pointy bit on this one as well. So I know that these leaves here, you can match up those top 2 there with these top 2, and then these will line up with others as well. It's very rare that I can actually get them all totally lined up. Sometimes I surprise myself. Not often, though. Okay, a few seconds. There we go. That's not too bad. And the last colour I'm going to do, I'll do my berries in Always Artichoke. No, it was Mossy Meadows, wasn't it, I said. And again, the pointy bit, so I'm going to do that facing up. But I don't think this actually lines up with anything. There we go. Lovely, isn't it? I do like this. This stamp set came out last year, last Christmas, and it's very unusual that Stampin' Up! Carry these forward. So we were all very pleased. Now I'm going to do the bow and also the little flower, and I'm going to use the mint macaron for that. So let's bring this one back. The bow that I'm using on here isn't the one from this set, which is that one. I used to use that one, that's fine, but then this year they brought this set out, which is called Peaceful Wreath, and this fits the same dies as well. And I just love that bow there. I think that is really gorgeous. It's like raffia, I think. So I tend to use both sets when I'm doing the wreath. Okay, so there's that one, and the flower. This little scrap of paper is this bit that came out of the middle. I'll show you when I die cut that one. Okay. So I think that's all the stamping that I need to do, isn't it? So let's get the big shot over. Move that one out of the way as well. In fact, now it's a question of getting the big shot up rather than over. I find it's easier just to pop it on the floor. So I think I'll do the die cutting first, and the die set that I'm using is Wonderful Wreath Framelits dies. You get these bits in here, and you also get the word joy and the word Noel as well. Now if you've kept this the same way, with that's where the pointy bit was up there, this matches up with it as well. That tab there, can you yes, you can see it. That would line up on top here, and if I bring that towards me, then I'll be able to get the other pieces on here as well. No wonder it won't line up. Try turning it over the right way. Right, now it will do. Okay, then this one, the pointy bit, put that upwards again. And on this one you've also got this bit down here, so that helps you to line this up, because you can't actually see what you're lining up here. But what you have to do is, if you make sure that the point is going straight up, or whichever direction you've got yours in, and then if you make this bit come down here so that you can't see any ink through there, and then you are good to go. Now with the bow, I'll pop that on there, might as well do this all in one go. I can't see quite so well for lining up, but I'm sure it'll be pretty close. Right. So this is the bow. And the flower. It's not too bad, it's not brilliant, but and the wreath. And that was a bit that I'd used for my flower. There we go. Stamping Up really do come up with some brilliant ideas. Right, I don't need that one, but I need this now because I want to do some embossing. And the embossing folder I'm using is wood grain. Yes, that's wood grain. So just line this up. And my sandwich. Right, let's get that out of the way, and all we have to do now is to put our card together. I'll straighten myself up a bit. Right, okay. put my embossed piece on first. There we go. So I'm going to pop the sentiment on with dimensionals. I'll have one in each corner. I don't need to have one in the centre of this one because it's the size of it. These four will stop it from dipping down. And then this one as well, I'm going to use dimensionals, and this one I tend to use 5 to go round. Four, I think, leaves it a little bit flexible in the middle. If you find that when you did your stamping on the wreath, any bits didn't come out very well, aim to get it so that it gets covered up with your bow. I don't have that problem on this one, but I did on one of those others. Oh, it was a red and green one, so I used the bow to cover up what I didn't like. Now for the bow, what I do is I take one dimensional and I cut it in half. I put half in either side like that. Well, I think this colour scheme has worked quite nicely. Now for this one, what I do is I just cut one of these pieces. I don't take the whole piece. That's it. And then I pop that. I'm going to pop it up that way because you can see more white on that. There we go. I think that colour scheme's worked really quite nicely. I'm pleased with that. So there we go. I hope you like that technique. It is a little bit different. The effect really is quite nice, and I hope you decide to give it a try. Many thanks for watching my video. If you have any questions, please contact me. As always, I will be happy to help you. If you've enjoyed watching this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button, which is on the right hand side of the screen, or it may be underneath depending on what you're watching the video on. If you'd like to buy any of the products that I featured here today, please click on the link that's showing at the bottom of the screen. That'll take you straight to my 24/7 online Stampin' Up shop. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.